The scene opens in a dark, twisted forest where gnarled trees are covered in black moss. Above, a strangely murky sky hangs over the unsettling landscape. This is a world of bizarre monsters, where a man in a dark hood is locked in a desperate struggle with a purple beast. He finds himself trapped, his face covered in the creature's drool as its jaws loom over him. The monster's massive maw begins to clamp down with immense force. A violent splash of blood fills the screen as he contemplates the possibility of dying here. Suddenly, he jolts upright in his bed, waking from the nightmare. He clutches his throat, gasping for air, realizing it has been 12 years. For over a decade, he has been tormented by these dreams, where the pain of death feels terrifyingly real. The morning sun reveals a peaceful, modern cityscape, a stark contrast to his nightmare. He meticulously studies the creatures from his nightmares, documenting their weaknesses. He has learned to endure the pain of dying. But what's truly agonizing is the simple act of sleeping, a constant source of his profound exhaustion. Because every time he sleeps in reality, he is thrust back into that nightmarish world. And every time he dies in that world, he is violently returned to reality. This endless, vicious cycle has made a proper night's sleep impossible. The sheer frustration is etched onto his face. So to break the loop, he spent 12 years mastering weaponry, martial arts, swordsmanship, survival, and military tactics. He transformed himself into a warrior, ready to face the horrors that await him in his dreams. And thanks to that training, he began to die less and less often in his nightmares. However, the fundamental problem remained sleep itself. His doctor suggested finding a new purpose, something he truly wanted to do, in hopes it might grant him a peaceful night's rest. He considers her words, but the only thing he truly desires is to sleep soundly, even if just for a single night. Suddenly, his nose begins to bleed. He collapses, blood pouring from his face as he chokes. His eyes widen in disbelief. He hits the floor, his body lifeless in a pool of his own blood. His consciousness begins to fade, yet a strange sensation washes over him. His body feels light, the chronic headache is gone, and for the first time in 12 years he feels truly rested. He questions if he has finally died in reality and where he might be now. His eyes open to find himself sitting at the base of a gnarled tree. He is back in the nightmare world he has suffered in for over a decade. He senses a presence. A massive reptilian beast with multiple eyes lunges from the shadows. Its alien gaze locks onto him. He realizes that with the amount of blood he lost in the real world, he might truly be dead. If that is the case, then dying here means there is no reality to return to. This nightmare has now become his one and only reality. He knows this world intimately and understands what is required for survival. His first instinct is to avoid a direct confrontation and seek a safe zone monsters despise. But he pauses. A strange new feeling surges through him. He finds he has no desire to flee. He questions if this newfound resolve comes from his first real rest in years, or if his body here is simply more powerful. The reptilian beast towers over him, its sheer size a testament to its power. It lets out a deafening roar. Every fiber of his being screams at him, an instinct honed over 12 years, telling him to fight and survive. With a surge of newfound strength, he meets the beast head-on, his blade cutting deep. His eyes burn with cold fury, and in a single, decisive moment, the colossal creature falls. He stands over his kill, catching his breath. He plunges his sword into its flesh, revealing a strange, glowing core within. He pulls the orb from the corpse, a source of unknown energy now resting in his palm. He examines the strange, pulsating core. Without hesitation, he consumes the orb. A surge of energy revitalizes his weary body. In this dark fantasy world, he resolves to survive no matter the cost. First, he sets off through the dense woods. His goal is to reach a brighter, safer place. A hooded man awakens, perched high on a thick tree branch. The morning sun breaks through the forest canopy. His eyes slowly open. He reflects on another night of perfect sleep in this new world. It has been a month since his arrival, and he's grown accustomed to cutting his way through the wilderness. He clarifies that he doesn't hunt just because he feels the urge to fight. To him, risking his life for the thrill of it is nothing short of madness. Yet he admits he can't completely suppress the instinct for battle. He only hunts when he needs food and a pang of hunger strikes him. Driven by necessity, he launches a powerful strike against a winged beast. He also hunts when there's an opportunity to obtain a new power. He consumes the glowing essence found inside the monster's bodies. By eating these cores, he has a chance to absorb the creature's abilities. He reflects that since he began this practice, adapting to the world has become much easier. But there is one more fact he has discovered. He pulls out a token, realizing the body he inhabits belonged to a third-class mercenary. A third-class mercenary token. The existence of such an item means that there must be other people living somewhere in this world. He finally sees a glimmer of hope. But as he travels, his eyes catch something unnatural on the forest floor. A large metal trap, clearly of human design. The realization hits him instantly. If there are traps, then there must be people nearby. He leaps to a higher vantage point and finally sees it, a small cabin nestled in a clearing. It's a house, the first sign of civilization he's seen. He approaches cautiously, calling out to see if anyone is inside. The cabin appears deserted, save for a lone book sitting on the table. Intrigued, he reaches out to inspect the mysterious object. He opens the book, finding it titled The Demonic Realm Chronicles. He's taken aback by what he reads. The book meticulously details the history and terminology of this world. He realizes this chronicle is absolutely essential for his survival. Suddenly, a heavy footstep sounds from the doorway. An old man appears, demanding to know who he is. He aims a loaded crossbow, threatening to put a hole in his head if he doesn't answer clearly. Though relieved to finally meet another person, he realizes he's been mistaken for a robber. He raises his hands to de-escalate, explaining he was only curious about the remote house. The old man is unmoved, ordering him to get lost. He reluctantly agrees, but his gaze lingers on the invaluable book. He places his hand on the book, making a final plea. He asks to borrow the chronicle, stating he is willing to pay any price. The old man coldly asks what he'll do if he refuses. He knows that this book is absolutely essential for his survival. In that case, he'll have no choice but to become the robber he was mistaken for. In a flash, he draws his blade as the old man readies his shot. The hunter remains perfectly still, his aim unwavering. Though unsure of the old man's strength, he is confident he won't lose this fight. A faint smirk appears on the old man's face. The old man reconsiders, realizing a robber wouldn't be interested in a book, and introduces himself as Hector. Seeing his guard is down, the man replies that his name is Kim Woojin. Hector finds the name peculiar, so Woojin suggests he simply call him Jin. He internally notes that his name must be difficult to pronounce here. Hector refuses to lend out the precious book but offers an alternative. Jin can stay and read it in the cabin. In exchange, he only asks for help with simple chores, an offer Jin gratefully accepts. And so, an agreement is made. Jin begins his stay at Hector's house. He finds that while Hector is gruff, he doesn't seem to be a bad person. For the first time in a long while, he enjoys a warm meal. The meal is so delicious, he thinks Hector might be an angel. He recalls their conversation that morning, where Hector confirmed he was heading out for a while. The old man's mission was to take revenge on the monster that killed his comrades. Jin notes Hector's nervousness despite his apparent strength. This could only mean he was facing a truly powerful beast. With the cabin to himself, Jin finally immerses himself in the chronicles. He learns that the history of this world begins with the Northern Empire. Its king, consumed by greed, laid his hands on an otherworldly gate. A gate said to hold the truth of creation and immense power. And on the day it was opened, the calamity began. Powerful monsters poured out from the otherworldly gate. They turned the North into a demonic realm in just 9 years, forcing humanity to unite and build a barrier against the encroaching darkness. He closes the book. He reflects on the wealth of useful information he's just absorbed. The chronicle states that monsters grow stronger the deeper one goes into the demonic realm, making him realize the creatures he faced grew weaker as he traveled. Meanwhile, Hector races through the wilderness. Jin wonders just how deep inside the demonic realm he had been wandering. The old hunter's face is a mask of grim determination. He questions his own relative strength in this world, as Hector finds himself facing a pack of monstrous wolves. The old man leaps into the fray, crossbow aimed and ready. The monstrous wolves lunge forward with terrifying speed. He plants his feet firmly. He unleashes a volley of enchanted bolts from his crossbow. But the agile beasts evade his attack with ease. He curses in frustration. Suddenly he's thrown back, his eyes widening as he sees Jin standing near the cabin. Jin stands ready, his blade drawn. Hector desperately warns him to run, telling him it's too dangerous. But Jin ignores the warning, leaping past the old man. Hector can only watch in disbelief. His eyes glow with a crimson light as he closes the distance. He soars through the air, descending upon the alpha wolf. The beast roars, its crystalline back bristling in defense. With a single, fluid motion, he brings his blade down. The sword cleaves through the monster's body with unstoppable force. Its bisected corpse crashes to the ground, silencing the clearing. The rest of the pack halts, their aggression turning to caution. Hector can only stare in utter disbelief. He struggles to comprehend how Jin defeated the werewolf with a single slash. Jin turns, calmly calling out to the stunned old hunter. He casually asks if the beast he just killed is considered strong. Hector questions his sincerity, baffled by the inquiry. He confirms that the werewolf is, in fact, incredibly powerful. Jin calmly takes in this new information. He decides to deal with the remaining pack first and discuss the details later. The rest of the monstrous wolves charge forward in a frenzy. He assesses the pack, noting that while their numbers are a threat, they don't seem individually strong. He formulates a plan to shatter their morale by taking out the second in command. His eyes narrow with focus. He spots his target, an exceptionally large wolf at the very front of the pack. He brings his blade down on his chosen target. The beast's eyes widen in alarm, but Jin's gaze remains locked and merciless. The wolf freezes, its aggression gone. It glances back at a confused packmate. Then, in a shocking display of cowardice, it kicks the smaller wolf aside. The second-in-command turns and flees, yelping in terror. The rest of the pack watches, their morale completely shattered. Jin stands calmly as the entire pack scatters into the forest. Hector is stunned, unable to believe that the notoriously brave wolves would simply run away. Jin reflects on the wolf's impressive ability to assess a situation. The cowardly beast pants as it flees for its life. Later that evening, back at the cabin, Hector explains that the bounty on the werewolf's head is at least 40 gold coins. Jin asks if that is a lot of money, and the old hunter confirms that it is. It's enough to live comfortably for 6 or 7 years without working. Jin is shocked that such a weakling could have such a high bounty. He realizes that if he ever needs cash, he can simply hunt similar creatures to get rich. He muses that life here might be easier than his past, as Hector places his reward on the table. The old man presents him with the werewolf hide, some jerky, a pouch of silver coins, and a pioneer's map. Hector instructs him to take the map to Pioneer Village and find a man named Jacob. He explains that Jacob will buy the hide for a fair price, but Jin questions if it's truly alright to accept such a valuable reward. Hector states that since Jin killed the werewolf, he is simply paying the price, reminding him that he also held a grudge against the beast. The old hunter sincerely thanks Jin for avenging his comrades and hopes they will meet again someday. They shake hands, sealing their farewell. Jin expresses his gratitude for everything. With their business concluded, Jin departs from the cabin. He heads off into the vast wilderness. As he travels, his attention is drawn to a figure on a nearby cliff. It's a strange, fox-like creature with 2 long side-tipped tails. Following the map, Jin finally arrives at the fortified settlement known as Pioneer Village. He takes in the site, confirming he's reached his destination. At the gate, he remarks that the town seems quite well stocked for its size. He walks through the bustling streets. He immediately notices the wary and suspicious gazes of the locals. He wonders if everyone is on high alert simply because he's a stranger. He finds their caution understandable, knowing that in a world like this, people can be far more dangerous than monsters. He spots a tavern, the perfect place to find information. He steps inside the lively establishment, but as he makes his way through the crowd, a large hand suddenly stops him. The hand belongs to the tavern's bartender, who offers him a beer. Jin politely refuses, asking instead for the location of a man named Jacob. His question piques the interest of the other men at the bar. A man with a goatee introduces himself as Jacob, though Jin internally notes he has the face of a scammer. Jin explains that he was sent by Hector to sell a werewolf hide. Jacob is floored by the news, questioning if Hector truly managed to kill a werewolf. Seeing the misunderstanding, Jin decides there is no need to correct him. Jacob unrolls the pelt, his eyes widening as he confirms it is a genuine werewolf hide. The other patrons are impressed, remarking that old man Hector still has what it takes. A sly, knowing smile spreads across Jacob's face. Jacob smugly states he knew Hector could pull it off. Suddenly, Jacob's men surround him. Jin calmly asks what they are doing. A man wearing a wolf pelt threatens him, telling him to leave if he values his life. Jin notes that his first impression was correct, questioning if this is how Jacob always conducts business. Jacob defends his actions, calling it an investment and claiming that supplying Hector was a financial loss. He declares that he needs the valuable hide to make up for his accumulated losses. Jin's eyes glow with a dangerous light as he contemplates killing the man. But he restrains himself, deciding he can't kill a person over a simple hide despite his anger. Instead, he grabs a nearby mug and splashes its contents directly into Jacob's face. The man warns him not to be clever and to get lost. Jin turns his back to the man. He walks away, tossing his pouch of silver onto the floor. Jacob smirks, believing Jin has made the smart choice. But instead of leaving, Jin suddenly hefts a heavy wooden bench. He calls out to the surprised Jacob. He coldly advises that if one intends to scam someone, they should aim for the neck, not the back. Jacob's expression sours, retracting his earlier assessment of Jin's intelligence. He declares that Jin doesn't know the value of his life as his men charge forward. One of the thugs lunges, screaming for Jin to die. He decides that killing men like these won't weigh on his conscience. He effortlessly ducks under the thug's wild swing. The man is stunned by his opponent's strength, but Jin is also impossibly fast. Another of Jacob's men smashes his club into the floorboards. Jin counters by swinging a heavy wooden table. The bald thug realizes his mistake too late. Jin uses the momentum to slide in low, severing the man's legs with a single cut. His gaze remains cold and unforgiving. Jacob stares in disbelief, wondering where this monster of a man came from. He realizes he should know a fighter this powerful, and that at this rate he'll die for nothing. Jin's blade flashes through the chaos. He dodges a heavy punch and delivers a swift counter. The thug recoils in pain. Jin finishes him with a clean slice across the chest. He stands over the fallen man, his presence menacing. His gaze remains cold and unwavering. Seeing his men fall, Jacob panics and screams for everyone to run. The scammer and his remaining thugs scramble to escape the tavern. They crash through the tavern window, sent flying by Jin's overwhelming force. Jacob scrambles backward in terror. His eyes widen in disbelief at something behind Jin. He recognizes the creature as a red wolf, questioning why such a monster has appeared in the village. Jin calmly steps in front of the terrified scammer. The wolf charges forward, scattering the remaining men. Jin looks on, slightly perplexed. The wolf barks furiously at him. He recognizes the creature as the cowardly scout wolf that fled their previous encounter. His eyes glow ominously as he asks if it has returned simply to die. The creature snarls, its face a mask of fury. But its aggression instantly vanishes as it drops to the ground with a whimper. It rolls onto its back, panting and wagging its tails like a common dog. The bizarre display of submission continues. Jacob and his men are utterly bewildered by the creature's behavior. Jin himself questions this strange, mutt-like display. As the beast pants expectantly, a sudden realization dawns on him. He extends his hand and the thugs watch in stunned silence. He gives the creature a simple command to bite. The two-tailed beast's eyes glow as it prepares to obey its new master. The red wolf leaps forward, its claws extended and jaws wide. The thug screams in pure terror. The beast viciously tears into its victim. Jin watches the carnage, quietly approving of the outcome. Jacob's other man can only watch in horror as the wolf turns its attention to him. The creature pins him to the ground, its fangs sinking deep. Jacob panics, realizing his first priority is to escape this situation. Jin observes the scammer, noting his simple-minded nature. Jacob immediately prostrates himself, begging for his life and promising to do anything. He knows that survival must come first and revenge can wait. Jin slams his sword into the ground, inches from the scammer's face. The terrified man stammers, addressing him as Sir. Jin internally curses the man's audacity. He wonders just who Jacob thinks he's dealing with. The scene triggers a memory of a man begging him to let an issue slide. His former factory manager had used the company's poor situation as an excuse for his unpaid salary. Back then, he had been too soft-hearted and simply accepted the situation. But that single moment of weakness led to his pay being delayed by a week, then a month, then two. He remembers confronting his manager again about his missing salary. The man had simply scoffed, calling him a punk. The manager had branded him as selfish and treated him like a pushover. He recalls the miserable feeling of living month to month. But he learned one important lesson back then. Seeing an opening, Jacob grins with malicious intent. He lunges forward, pulling a hidden blade to stab Jin in the back. The scammer screams, intending to end Jin's life. But Jin turns in an instant, his eyes glowing red. He easily parries the attack, reflecting that it's men like Jacob, who are incapable of feeling remorse. Jacob's face contorts in pure terror. With a single, fluid motion, he decapitates the scammer. The man's head falls to the ground. This time, he vows to never be taken for a pushover again. With the matter settled, he turns his attention elsewhere. He now has to decide the fate of the cowardly wolf. The creature seems intent on following him, dropping a pouch at his feet as an offering. Inside is a small fortune in gold coins. Jin considers the unexpected development. He asks the beast if it truly wishes to tag along. The wolf nuzzles against him, cementing its loyalty. A faint, knowing smile crosses Jin's face. He pats its head, acknowledging the creature's cleverness. He accepts the beast as his companion, deciding they will get along from now on. The next morning, he awakens in a comfortable bed, his new ally resting on the floor. He reflects on having a perfect, deep sleep. Stretching, he feels refreshed enough to fly. Later, he finds himself washing the blood from his clothes. He pauses, letting out a quiet sigh. He contemplates the fact that he has killed people for the first time, and not just one or two, but many, however. He wonders why he feels no guilt. He dismisses the idea that it's because they were scum, realizing the emotion he felt was the same as when he hunts monsters. It was a thrill. He clutches his chest, sensing that something inside of him is starting to change. He questions if he's cursed, but decides that survival is what matters most. One thing is certain, his life here will be vastly different, free from absurdity and filled with abundance. He resolves to simply enjoy the present. They arrive at the 5th Pioneer City, and his first order of business is to sell the pelt. He instructs his wolf to stay nearby and out of sight, recalling what he read in the chronicles. He recalls that to receive a monster bounty, one must visit the Order Alliance. The chronicles confirmed a branch existed in this city, though he's more preoccupied with finding a name for his new companion. He soon arrives at the impressive stone building. A clerk at the reception window asks what business he has. Jin hefts the heavy, rolled-up pelt onto the counter. He calmly states he is there to collect a monster bounty. The clerk scoffs, dismissing the hide as simple dog skin and warning him not to play pranks. But a closer look makes him pause. He unrolls the hide, revealing the unmistakable head of a werewolf. Stunned, the man stammers, asking if Jin truly caught this beast himself. Jin calmly confirms that he did. He is led to a private room to wait. The clerk returns, apologizing for the delay and explaining they had to verify the pelt's authenticity. He confirms the hide is genuine and presents a large pouch of gold as the reward. Jin realizes this is enough money to live comfortably for at least 6 or 7 years. The reality of his newfound wealth doesn't hit him until he sees the gold firsthand. He feels a different kind of thrill than hunting, concluding that money is indeed a good thing. But just as he's about to leave, the clerk calls out to him. The man asks if he would be interested in taking on another request. The offer piques Jin's interest. The clerk explains that a monster has recently appeared in a nearby quarry, causing a major problem. He elaborates that the monster has made the quarry inaccessible to workers. Unable to mine the precious bloodstone, the city's economy is on the brink of ruin, and the beast is rumored to be even stronger than a werewolf. Despite the danger, the clerk believes Jin is the man for the job. Jin calmly asks for the monster's identity. The clerk reveals its name is Mad Skull, a fearsome beast with a bounty of 70 gold coins. Jin's expression shifts slightly as he recalls reading about the Mad Skull in Hector's Chronicles. He also remembers that it is a monster he has faced before. He recalls its incredibly hard skull and its insane aggression, possessing a toughness and strength far beyond that of a werewolf. He understands their struggle, recalling that it took him a month and 28 deaths to kill it the first time. The clerk asks if he truly believes he can subdue such a beast. Jin remains silent for a moment. A confident smirk spreads across his face as he declares that his next prey has been decided. He soon arrives at the deserted quarry. He recalls the clerk's words about the Mad Skull halting all work. The gloomy atmosphere makes him want to finish the job as quickly as possible. He leaps down into the pit, but a voice suddenly calls out to him. A group of mercenaries stops him, asking him to wait his turn as they arrived first. Jin scoffs at the idea, questioning since when there was a queue for hunting monsters. The mercenary leader changes his tone. He offers Jin a spot on their team, an attempt at recruitment Jin immediately recognizes. He considers his options, realizing that waiting for them to finish would be a huge waste of time. He weighs the pros and cons, thinking that working together might be better, despite having to share the reward. However, the memory of Jacob's betrayal is still fresh in his mind. He knows he can't easily trust the people here, so he asks why they want him to join when they already have so many men. The man laughs, admitting that he prioritizes safety over performance. He believes Jin's presence would be a great help, openly questioning if he is strong. Jin notes the sudden shift to a more formal tone, concluding that these men are weak against the strong, and asks what makes him think so. The mercenary leader points out that a wolf like that wouldn't be following him if he wasn't powerful. A female mercenary chimes in, noting that wolves are famously independent, and even the Order Alliance has never managed to tame one. Jin is internally annoyed, wondering when his companion, whom he calls Mutt, disobeyed his order to stay hidden. He quickly realizes they must have lured the beast out with a piece of meat, a delicacy he himself has yet to try. The wolf pauses, looking nervous. It drops the food and scurries back behind its master. Jin's expression darkens, insulted by the creature's behavior. But his attention is drawn to the glistening meat on the ground. He swallows hard. His body moves on its own, his hand reaching for the food as he wonders when he last ate a proper meal. He hesitates, remembering that not only was it on the ground, but it was also in a dog's mouth just moments ago. But the female mercenary gently stops his hand, reminding him of his human dignity. She kindly asks if he's hungry and offers him some of the meat. He freezes in surprise. In that moment, he sees her as a goddess he can actually trust. Having accepted her offer, he joins the mercenary group as they venture into the mine. He savors the delicious, savory meat, a taste far beyond the monster flesh he ate just to survive. The woman turns to him, realizing they haven't properly introduced themselves yet. The leader introduces himself as Jonathan, captain of the Black Marlin mercenary group, and the woman states her name is Claire. Jin gives his name in return, and Jonathan officially welcomes him to the team, telling him to ask if he has any questions. They soon arrive at a massive pit, where Jonathan declares they will fight the Mad Skull and orders his teams into position. Jonathan turns to Claire, suggesting they begin their preparations. Jin is suddenly taken aback as a strange energy begins to swirl around him. He looks up in awe as Claire levitates, questioning if what he's seeing is magic. He recognizes the glowing sigil as the magic he read about in the Chronicles. Claire chants an incantation, asking for a blessing upon the land. A spell called Feather Step envelops the group in a whirlwind of glowing energy. Jonathan smirks, remarking that Claire's support buffs are as excellent as ever. She informs him that the effect will last for 3 to 5 minutes at most. With his movements enhanced, Jonathan instructs everyone to remain on high alert. He then leaps into the pit, declaring that he will lure the Mad Skull to them. He notes how Jonathan's movements have become much faster, admitting that magic is quite impressive. He wonders if he too could learn to wield such power. One of the mercenaries urges the group to hurry, announcing the monster's imminent arrival. He reminds them to stay alert, as a single mistake could lead to their deaths. Jin assesses their plan to lure the beast into a trap and overwhelm it with firepower. He internally questions if such a simple strategy will be effective against the Mad Skull. Jonathan leaps into the darkness, confronting the beast head-on. He shouts out a command for the trap team to get ready. He deftly evades the monster's powerful charge. The mercenaries above cry out in alarm as the Mad Skull finally reveals itself. A heavy net ensnares the Mad Skull, trapping it momentarily. The mercenaries pull with all their might, attempting to restrain the thrashing beast. A man calls for the next phase of the attack. The spear team rushes forward to strike the immobilized target. They thrust their weapons into the monster's tough hide. The Mad Skull roars in defiance, its strength undiminished. The spearmen begin to lose their footing against the creature's immense power. It thrashes wildly, straining against the net and the spears. Jin observes the struggle, realizing the situation is dire. The mercenaries are completely overpowered, sent flying by the monster's raw force. The mercenaries curse in frustration, unable to restrain the beast despite their numbers. With a furious roar, the Mad Skull easily shreds the net. Its crimson eye glows with malevolent power. It unleashes a powerful shockwave, scattering the remaining men. Claire watches in horror, realizing their plan has failed. But Jin suddenly moves, placing himself directly in front of her. He stands his ground, facing the charging beast alone. He plants his feet firmly, preparing for the impact. He catches the monster's massive tusk with his bare hands. The Mad Skull's immense power bears down on him. Claire cries out, warning him of the danger. He calmly tells her not to worry, because he knows exactly how to take down a Mad Skull. He uses the monster's own momentum to launch himself into the air. He twists his body, repositioning for a strike. He lands perfectly on its tusk, drawing his blade. His eyes narrow with deadly focus. He brings the sword down with all his might. But the blade fails to pierce its hide, staggering him from the recoil. The Mad Skull roars, confirming its incredible raw power. He curses himself for letting his guard down. Suddenly, he feels a strange energy surround him. He sees Claire casting a spell, offering her assistance. He realizes it's a magic buff, making his body feel significantly lighter. A smirk crosses his face, confident that with this boost his plan will work. The other mercenaries offer their help, but Jin sternly warns them to stay back. For now, he declares that it's easier to handle this alone. He explains that to hunt a Mad Skull, one only needs to know a few things. Despite its name, it's ultimately just a pig that runs fast in a straight line. He explains that turning is incredibly difficult for the beast. He will first use this weakness to stop it in its tracks. He slams his foot down hard on its tusk. The monster crashes headfirst into the quarry wall. He notes the power of the buff and prepares for the second step. He recalls that its long tusks serve the same purpose as a human's hands. But since the hard tusks can't be cut with a sword, he will aim for its weak point, the nose. His blade slices deep into the monster's snout, eliciting a pained roar. He knows the intense pain will now make it too burdensome for the beast to attack. He declares that this Mad Skull won't be getting another chance to attack. A confident smirk spreads across his face. Meanwhile, the other mercenaries rush back to the scene. They arrive at the pit, wondering what happened and prioritizing finding Jin. But their path is suddenly blocked by Mutt. The wolf growls, its eyes glowing with hostility. Claire and Jonathan are taken aback by its aggression. The beast roars, and Jonathan wonders if it's warning them not to interfere. Just then, Jin lands before them, silencing the standoff. Jonathan calls out in relief, asking what happened to the Mad Skull. He calmly informs them that the Mad Skull is no longer a threat. He clarifies that all that remains is pork, revealing the monster's massive corpse. The mercenaries are stunned, questioning how he could have possibly defeated it alone. But suddenly Mutt begins to sniff the air, letting out a low growl. From a nearby tunnel, another Mad Skull emerges. Its eyes glow with rage. Jonathan curses their luck, realizing there's a second beast, and orders his men to prepare for battle. But Claire quickly tells him to wait, having noticed something unusual. She points out that this Mad Skull has piglets with it. The small piglets cry out beside their mother. The mother Mad Skull glares back, letting out a pained grunt. Jin and Mutt watch the scene unfold. The beast turns, gathering its young to leave the quarry. The mercenaries watch in surprise as the monster simply walks away. Claire expresses her sympathy, realizing the beast was only trying to raise its family here. Jin is simply relieved that the creature left peacefully. Later that night, back in the 5th Pioneer City, the Black Marlin mercenary group gathers at a local tavern. Jonathan raises a toast, celebrating their successful hunt and the fact that everyone returned unharmed. Jonathan declares it's time for the highlight of the hunt, the settlement. His men erupt in a joyous cheer. Claire notes that the reward seems far larger than the promised 70 gold coins. Jonathan proudly explains that it's thanks to him making a fuss. He had argued that the job was more dangerous than advertised, with 2 mad skulls and piglets present, and demanded a bigger reward. He triumphantly reveals their new payment is a whopping 110 gold coins. Jin questions this, reminding him that they never actually fought the mother. Jonathan smirks, admitting he told a little white lie. The other mercenaries praise their captain's cunning, believing a lie only matters if you get caught. Jin watches them with a slight smile, finding this group of people quite interesting. Jonathan gets Jin's attention. He proposes giving half of the earnings to Jin, asking the group if anyone objects. Jin questions the incredibly generous amount. Jonathan insists, explaining that without Jin they would have all been killed. He adds that with the increased reward, there is more than enough to share and it's what the team wants. The other mercenaries cheer in agreement. Jin reflects that their trap and Claire's magic buff were indeed a great help. He concludes that perhaps not everyone in this world is bad after all. As thanks, he offers to pay for all the drinks, and the men cheer at his generosity. The entire group celebrates their victory, drinking heartily into the night. Jin asks Claire where she is headed, and she explains she is going to practice her magic. He questions her need to practice. Later, he finds her meditating under the full moon, enveloped in a magical aura. She focuses her energy, her body glowing with a serene blue light. He watches from a distance, impressed by her dedication to train even after a difficult hunt. The sight of her power makes him contemplate the nature of magic. He wonders if he too could learn to wield such an incredible power. Jin casually drops the bomb that he wants to learn magic, and the blonde mage is absolutely stunned by the request. Jin reflects on how surprisingly easy it was to get her to agree, while she insists on giving him a gift for his troubles. She recounts how Jin saved her life when the mad skull charged at them, unlike some other useless people standing nearby. She vents her frustration about mercenary groups that fail to protect their mages, making it clear she's glad Jin is on her side. Jonathan jumps in to play the voice of reason, reminding them that magic isn't a quick fix and they have a deadline to hit. The mage pushes back, insisting that Jin should join their party, even though she questions why a beast hunter would want to hang out with them. Jonathan tries to act humble, claiming that a lone wolf like Jin is too good to be tagging along with their small-time crew. Jin plays it cool, pretending he has nothing better to do while secretly plotting to manipulate the situation to his advantage. Jin pivots the conversation to their next destination, and Jonathan confirms they are heading to the 4th Pioneer City for a big job. Seizing the perfect moment, Jin drops the act and asks if he can tag along with them to the city. Jin stammers through a pathetic excuse about learning magic on the fly, while the others barely contain their laughter at his transparent lie. Jonathan and the mage quickly drop the act, enthusiastically welcoming their new, supposedly strong ally into the fold. Jin keeps his expression unreadable, already mentally locking in the 4th Pioneer City as his next target. The entire group begins their trek, dwarfed by the sheer scale of the massive, armored Tarrasque beast they are using for transport. A close-up reveals the creature's terrifying, reptilian features, highlighting why it is such a prized beast for heavy-duty travel. Jin studies the beast with a critical eye, comparing the living tank to the descriptions he had previously read in his field records. With the logistics settled, Jonathan rallies the group, signaling that it is time to hit the road for the long journey ahead. Once the sun goes down, Jin sits in the quiet dark, fully aware that mastering magic is going to be a grueling uphill battle. He wipes the sweat from his brow, acknowledging that while there are plenty of obstacles to learning, the real killer is the endless, mind-numbing repetition. He watches intently as his mentor demonstrates a spell, knowing that despite his drive, true growth in this craft is painfully slow. Jin is absolutely drenched in sweat, struggling with the mental wall that comes when you're stuck in a training rut. He knows the grind is brutal, but after 12 years of hell in the demon realm, this kind of pain is just another Tuesday for him. That decade of pure survival turned him into a machine, giving him the mental fortitude to push through where others would have folded. Suddenly, the air crackles with energy as Jin finally forces his will onto the mana, feeling it spark to life right before his eyes. It's a breakthrough moment, and he's already intimately familiar with the concept of slamming his head against a wall until it finally breaks. His mentor is visibly shocked, clapping her hands in excitement as she confirms that he has officially sensed mana for the first time. Jin is still reeling from the sensation, barely processing that he's actually tapped into the source of all magic. He admits it took him 10 days to get this far, and honestly, he's not even impressed with his own pace. The mage tries to play it cool, telling him that while 10 days is a bit on the slow side, most people never even get this far in their entire lives. She wastes no time, slamming a bag of supplies down and dropping the ultimate curveball. It's time for him to strip down for the next phase of training. A mysterious liquid drips from a gloved finger into a bowl, signaling that the real work is about to begin. The blonde mage begins drawing a glowing, intricate magic circle directly onto Jin's bare back to establish a permanent mana path. With the complex sigil now etched into his skin, she prepares to force a surge of raw magic into his system. Jin watches with a focused, unblinking gaze, ready to endure whatever physical toll this infusion is about to take. The magic circle flares with intense blue light as the connection between mentor and student is finally established. A massive wave of energy erupts around them, and Jin notes that this sensation is completely alien compared to his previous attempts at sensing mana. Deep within his own body, he can feel a dense, viscous current of power coursing through his veins like liquid energy. The mage checks in on his progress, asking if he can successfully track the flow of mana now that she has opened the floodgates. She explains that he has officially cleared the first hurdle and breaks down the 3 fundamental stages required to master the craft. She details the path ahead, mapping out the journey from sensing and containing mana to the final explosive stage of casting actual spells. With the first stage in the bag, the blonde mage declares it is time to level up to the second phase of training. She instructs Jin to treat the process like holding his breath, focusing on creating an internal vessel to house his mana. Jin closes his eyes, fully locked in as he prepares his body to become a living battery for magic. The mage gives the signal, and the training session kicks off with a massive surge of blue energy. A complex, glowing magic circle blazes to life on Jin's back, acting as the conduit for the power flowing into him. Meanwhile, in the shadows, a monstrous green mantis-like demon beast emerges, its presence signaling immediate danger. The creature looms in the darkness, its insectoid features and sharp, predatory form making it clear that the group is being hunted. A terrifying close-up reveals the beast's multiple, glowing eyes, scanning the area for its next meal. The mage suddenly freezes, struck by a chilling, ominous feeling that something wicked is closing in on their position. Panic sets in as she realizes their training has been compromised, just as the mana begins to swirl violently around Jin's chest. Claire's eyes widen in sheer terror as she realizes her own mana is being violently siphoned away. She is yanked backward by an unseen force, her body whipped through the air in a desperate struggle. Just as she's about to be overwhelmed, a red wolf lunges into the fray, intercepting the threat and saving her from the brink. Claire lands on the ground, stunned and breathless, trying to process how the beast suddenly appeared to protect her. She stares at the creature, wondering if it acted out of some primal instinct because it sensed her life was in immediate danger. Jin turns his attention toward her, his expression unreadable as he checks on her condition after the chaotic disruption. He reaches out to steady her, his calm demeanor a sharp contrast to the panic still lingering in her eyes. Claire is left completely shaken, realizing that the terrifying vision she just witnessed was actually a glimpse into Jin's inner world. She reflects on the nature of the soul, acknowledging that an inner world is a physical manifestation of a person's true power and history. A haunting, multi-eyed mantis entity looms in the darkness, proving that Jin's 12 years in the demon realm have left him with a truly monstrous core. Claire stares at Jin, clearly disturbed by the monstrous, multi-eyed entity manifesting within his inner world. She demands total honesty from him, needing to know exactly what kind of monster she is dealing with. Claire cuts straight to the point, asking if he has ever consumed an inner core. Jin looks back at her with a calm, unbothered expression, questioning why she is so hung up on that specific item. He clarifies that he is talking about the demon beast essence, confirming he has indeed consumed them in the past. Claire completely loses her composure, shouting in disbelief that he actually dared to eat such a lethal substance. Jin explains that he started eating them during his 12 years of hunting in the demon realm, consuming thousands or even tens of thousands over a decade. Jin asks if that is supposed to be a problem, while Claire looks like she is about to have a total meltdown. Claire explains that for any normal human, consuming those cores is a death sentence or a one-way ticket to becoming a mindless demon beast. She warns him about the inevitable weight of karma, or retribution, that comes for those who defy the natural order of life and death. The explanation continues, defining the turbid energy of the demon realm as a substance that grants bizarre, unnatural abilities to anything that absorbs it. It further clarifies that a monster core is essentially a physical nucleus, a concentrated lump of karma built up within a beast's body over time. The group continues their journey, with Jin and the others moving forward while the massive Tarrasque looms in the background. Claire's mind is racing, fixated on the terrifying implications of the Dark Priests and the threat they pose. She recalls the history of the otherworldly gate, noting how humans began worshipping the monsters as angels after the karma-filled energy flooded their world. These fanatics, known as madmen, would consume monster cores and even perform human sacrifices to appease their new, twisted deities. Jin remains unfazed, casually mentioning that he has been eating these cores for a decade, estimating he has consumed tens of thousands of them. Claire is internally spiraling, staring at the monstrous, multi-eyed vision of Jin's inner world and wondering if he is actually a dark priest. She quickly dismisses the thought, reasoning that a true dark priest would never be so open about their consumption or reveal their inner world so easily. Despite her logic, she remains deeply unsettled, questioning how someone could be so oblivious to the danger of eating those cores while still possessing such raw, violent power. Jin casually tosses a glowing blue core into his mouth like it's a piece of candy, completely unfazed by the carnage he just caused. Claire looks absolutely exhausted, watching in disbelief as Jin continues to snack on the forbidden items while they walk. She can't help but wonder why he's so obsessed with such a gross habit, while a quick note confirms he just learned it from watching other monsters. Claire finally snaps, demanding that he stop eating the cores immediately because he has just been lucky to survive this long. Jin retreats into his own head, processing her warning that consuming these things is a death sentence or a path to becoming a monster. He starts to connect the dots, wondering if his lack of remorse for killing and his constant bloodlust are actually side effects of his diet. His eyes flare with a menacing red glow as he questions if his very nature is being warped by the monster cores. He gives a non-committal answer, telling her he will try to stop, which only makes her more frustrated. Claire drops the final hammer, warning him that if he keeps this up, he will permanently lose the ability to use magic. Jin is visibly shaken by the news, focusing entirely on the potential loss of magic, while Claire can only sigh at his twisted priorities. Claire catches her breath, explaining that while Jin's current condition makes high-level mana manifestation a total pipe dream, he shouldn't lose hope just yet. She raises a finger to emphasize that even if he can't manifest magic, he should still be capable of mastering basic mana arts. Jin looks back at her, clearly intrigued by the distinction and wondering if this is the shortcut he needs to get stronger. The scene shifts to the bustling 4th Pioneer City, a place that looks like it's seen better days but is currently packed to the rafters. A massive statue looms over the city square, where a sea of mercenaries has gathered, creating a chaotic and noisy atmosphere. Jin surveys the massive crowd, noting that the sheer scale of this job is enough to make anyone's head spin. He quickly realizes that the massive turnout isn't just about the money, but because the job is being personally overseen by a high-ranking holy knight. The crowd parts as Holy Knight Raymond makes his entrance, looking like he walked straight out of a legend with his pristine silver armor and commanding presence. Jin watches him closely, immediately sensing an aura so intense it makes the surrounding mercenaries look like absolute amateurs. Jonathan chimes in to explain the hype, revealing that the massive gathering is all thanks to a high-profile request issued by the mysterious Golden Bug. Jin looks genuinely confused, asking if the Golden Bug is some kind of giant insect monster. Claire stares at him with a mix of disbelief and pity, noting that he really doesn't know anything outside of hunting. Jonathan steps in to explain that the Golden Bug was actually a legendary tycoon and one of the wealthiest people alive. He adds a somber note, revealing that the man recently passed away quite suddenly. Jin questions if there was foul play involved, but Jonathan admits that while rumors of murder exist, nothing is confirmed. Jin wonders why such a massive crowd would gather if the man is already dead, and Jonathan points to the two sons left behind. The group learns that the sons inherited the fortune, and the current high-stakes request is to transport that wealth safely inside a magical barrier. Jin processes the information, realizing that moving a tycoon's massive inheritance is exactly the kind of job that attracts every mercenary in the region. Suddenly, the Black Marlin group is called forward by the organizers, signaling that their moment of truth has finally arrived. Jonathan gets hyped, grabbing a bag and urging Jin to follow him immediately for the most important part of their mission. Jonathan proudly presents Jin to the recruiters, hyping him up as the ultimate powerhouse of their mercenary group. He doesn't hold back on the praise, bragging about how Jin single-handedly caught a mad skull and tamed a werewolf. The surrounding crowd starts whispering, clearly skeptical that this unassuming guy is actually the legendary head crusher. Jin looks visibly annoyed by the ridiculous nickname, while Jonathan just tells him to roll with it because the clout is paying the bills. The official contract is locked in for a cool 100 gold coins, with a strict departure time set for the next sunrise. Jonathan is absolutely buzzing with excitement, practically vibrating at the thought of getting paid a fortune just to haul some luggage. He breaks down the industry secrets, explaining that half the fee is for the actual work and the other half is just for Jin's terrifying reputation. Jin is left completely bewildered by the logic, still trying to wrap his head around why his name is worth so much cash. Jonathan clarifies that the nickname comes from his signature move of literally crushing monster skulls, which Jin finds to be a hilariously bad name. As they walk away, Jonathan keeps pushing the benefits of being famous, while Jin just sighs at the absurdity of it all. Jin stares intensely, his mind locked on the singular goal of mastering mana arts to reach the next level of power. The scene shifts to the quiet, moonlit exterior of the mercenary group quarters, where the night offers a brief respite from the chaos. Inside the arena, the atmosphere is electric as fighters trade blows, with the crowd roaring for blood and glory. A brutal exchange unfolds as one fighter lands a clean, devastating strike, sending his opponent reeling from the impact. Claire watches the carnage with concern, questioning if Jin is truly prepared to step into such a dangerous environment. Jin remains unfazed, calmly wrapping his hands as he explains that he has a calculated plan to get what he needs. He reiterates his intent to use the arena as a stage to catch the eye of the powerful Holy Knights. The narrative confirms that Holy Knights are naturally drawn to raw strength, often bestowing favor upon those who prove their worth. Jin stands ready, radiating a quiet confidence as he prepares to face his next opponent in the ring. With a steely gaze, he reaffirms his commitment to the arena, knowing that his path to greatness starts with this public display of force. Jin kicks off the fight with a burst of speed, closing the distance before his opponent can even blink. He effortlessly deflects a clumsy punch, his expression remaining as bored as if he were swatting away a fly. With a single, precise strike, Jin connects with his opponent's jaw, sending the poor guy reeling from the sheer force. He follows up instantly, grabbing the man by the head to ensure he stays exactly where he wants him. Jin delivers a brutal knee strike to the gut, effectively ending the fight before the crowd even realizes what happened. The arena erupts as the spectators cheer for the head crusher, while another challenger foolishly steps up to take his place. Jin glances up at the stands, catching the gaze of the Holy Knight and confirming that his display of power is working perfectly. He realizes that mere attention isn't enough to secure his goals, so he prepares to turn up the intensity. Jin launches a high, sweeping kick, showing off the kind of raw physical dominance that demands respect. He drives another knee into his next opponent, fully committed to stacking up bodies until the Holy Knight has no choice but to take him seriously. Holy Knight Raymond watches from the stands, already calculating exactly where this mysterious powerhouse came from. Jin stands tall in the center of the arena, completely unfazed while surrounded by the bodies of his defeated opponents. Jin locks eyes with the knights, already predicting the exact move they are about to make to test his limits. Raymond doesn't hesitate, ordering his apprentice, Rex, to jump into the ring and challenge the mercenary. Rex is visibly offended, clearly thinking it's beneath his dignity as a knight to be ordered to fight a common mercenary. Jin watches the exchange with a cold, calculating gaze, knowing that the real game is finally about to begin. When the challenge is issued, Jin shuts it down immediately, flatly refusing to dance to the knight's tune. Rex loses his cool, screaming down at Jin and demanding to know why he would dare turn down a direct order. Raymond remains calm and collected, shifting his tone to feign concern and asking if Jin is perhaps injured from the previous fights. Jin just waves him off with a dismissive smirk, signaling that he is perfectly fine and has no interest in playing along with their games. Raymond stares down at the arena floor, his expression hardening as he demands to know why the mercenary is still dodging the duel. Jin stands his ground, reminding the Holy Knight that he is a professional who operates strictly on the basis of profit and personal gain. He makes it crystal clear that he has no intention of throwing hands with a knight's apprentice for free. Jin flashes a confident, almost cocky grin, proposing that they turn this little confrontation into a high-stakes bet. Raymond looks visibly annoyed, questioning what on earth a mercenary could possibly want from someone of his stature. Jin doesn't miss a beat, admitting that while he might lack the prestige to boost the knight's reputation, he is absolutely loaded with cash. He holds up a heavy, clinking bag of gold, letting the weight of his wealth do the talking for him. The crowd goes wild, laughing at the sheer audacity of a common mercenary trying to gamble with a man who lives by a code of honor. Rex is absolutely fuming, his face twisted in pure rage as he glares down at the man who just insulted his entire order. Raymond steps in to shut down the money talk, his cold gaze signaling that he has a much different price in mind for this fight. Jin lays out the terms for the duel, insisting that both parties waive all liability for any injuries sustained in the ring. Raymond's eyes narrow with cold intensity as he confirms that this is exactly the kind of arrangement he was looking for. Jin can barely contain his excitement, realizing he finally has a free pass to unleash his full strength without worrying about legal repercussions. The two combatants square off in the center of the arena, the air thick with the tension of an impending, no-holds-barred brawl. The crowd goes absolutely feral, screaming for the head crusher to finish the job, while some even bet their entire fortunes on his victory. Claire and Jonathan watch from the sidelines, reminding Jin to signal them if things take a turn for the worse. Jin brushes off their concern with a cocky smirk, radiating total confidence as he promises them a win. Rex asks his master just how far he should take the fight, and Raymond gives him the green light to go all out. Raymond observes the scene with a calculating gaze, acknowledging that this mysterious mercenary is definitely not going to be an easy opponent. Rex accepts the order, his body erupting in a golden aura of mana as he prepares to engage Jin in a serious duel. The crowd goes absolutely ballistic, cheering for the Holy Knight as they recognize the telltale signs of mana arts in the ring. Jin locks eyes with Rex, his expression sharpening as he realizes the knight is no longer holding back. He internally acknowledges that Rex's speed is in a completely different leg compared to the usual arena fodder he's been crushing. Rex unleashes a blindingly fast strike, his fist glowing with a refined and terrifyingly powerful golden aura. Jin barely manages to process the incoming blow, realizing that a single clean hit from that technique could actually end his life. He watches the golden energy trail with a mix of caution and thrill, finding the display of mana arts genuinely interesting. Rex closes the distance in a flash, slamming his fist toward Jin with enough force to shatter stone. Jin narrowly dodges the strike, the sheer pressure of the impact kicking up a massive cloud of dust and debris. He pauses for a split second, wiping a trickle of blood from his lip as Rex demands to know if his name is truly Jin. Rex sneers, dismissing Jin as nothing more than a wild beast from the demon realm and vowing to make him pay for his arrogance. The crowd is losing their minds, panicking as they realize their favorite mercenary is actually being pushed onto the defensive. Claire watches with bated breath, her eyes locked on the arena as she realizes the true, terrifying gap between a normal fighter and a holy knight's apprentice. Rex doesn't let up, raining down a flurry of golden, mana-infused strikes that force Jin to dance around the ring just to stay in one piece. Raymond observes the chaos with a sharp, analytical gaze, clearly trying to decipher the secret behind Jin's unusual combat style. He notes that while Jin previously ended fights in a single, brutal motion, he is now playing a much more reserved and defensive game. Raymond's eyes narrow as he wonders if the mercenary is intentionally holding back his true power to hide a hidden ace up his sleeve. Rex winds up for a massive, glowing punch, channeling every ounce of his mana into a strike meant to shatter Jin's guard. The golden energy erupts with blinding intensity, tearing through the air as it closes in on its target. In a display of pure, raw instinct, Jin narrowly avoids the lethal blow, leaving the arena floor behind him in absolute splinters. Jonathan stares in total disbelief, unable to wrap his head around the fact that Jin just deflected a high-level mana art with nothing but his bare hands. Jin stands hunched over, blood dripping from his mouth as he prepares to push his limits even further. With a predatory grin, he decides he has seen enough of his opponent's offensive power and turns his attention to testing his own durability. He lunges forward, closing the gap with terrifying speed to force a direct confrontation. Raymond watches from the sidelines, his composure cracking as he realizes the sheer absurdity of Rex's pained reaction to a basic strike. The realization hits the knight that Jin wasn't waiting for an opening at all, but was simply letting himself get hit to gauge the strength of his foe. Jin's eyes glow with a menacing intensity as he realizes he was just having the time of his life savoring the exchange. He taunts his opponent, questioning if the knight's inability to put him down is due to the limitations of his own mana arts. Rex is left gasping for air, looking completely drained and bewildered by the monster he is forced to fight. Jin cracks his knuckles, looking completely unfazed as he challenges the knight to see exactly how many more hits he can take. Raymond finally steps in to end the farce, declaring the match over and officially handing the loss to his own apprentice. Holy Knight Raymond officially calls the match, signaling that the duel has reached its conclusion as promised. Jin stands in the arena, looking genuinely annoyed that his high-octane training session was cut short by the knight's interference. He wipes the blood from his lip, silently acknowledging that despite the interruption, he successfully achieved his goal of testing his limits. The crowd goes absolutely feral, cheering for the head crusher as they celebrate his dominant performance in the ring. The scene shifts to the dark, ominous exterior of the Golden Bug Wolf's mansion, where the atmosphere is far less celebratory. Inside, Derek and Cedric are gorging themselves on a massive feast, their bodies already showing signs of grotesque physical deterioration. They complain bitterly about the Order Alliance, frustrated that their extraction is taking 10 agonizing days to complete. One of the brothers vents his rage, calling the Alliance members useless frauds who are all talk and no action. He clutches a handful of food with a trembling, mutated hand, terrified that their physical forms might collapse before help arrives. A haunting reveal shows the brothers' backs covered in glowing blue crystalline protrusions, proving that their consumption of demon cores is rapidly turning them into monsters. Holy Knight Raymond stands by a massive tree, his presence alone commanding the attention of everyone nearby as he prepares to demonstrate his power. He defines the essence of mana arts, describing it as the ultimate technique to weave mana into an extension of one's own physical form. A golden, radiant aura ignites around his hand as he grips his sword, showcasing the sheer intensity of his refined mana control. With a single, earth-shattering swing, he executes the sacred flame slash, effortlessly cleaving through the thick trunk of the tree as if it were paper. Raymond stands tall and composed, his blade sheathed and his aura fading, looking every bit the legendary warrior the crowd expects him to be. Rex watches his master with wide-eyed adoration, clapping his hands in genuine awe at the display of pure, unadulterated strength. Rex continues to gush over Raymond's perfection, calling him a true beacon of the order before being abruptly told to step into the spotlight. Rex eagerly accepts the command, jumping into the fray with a confident grin and a shout of readiness to prove his own worth. Jin watches the entire spectacle from a distance, his mind snagging on a familiar image of a wolf that feels like a ghost from his past. He shifts his focus back to the aftermath of the slash, realizing that the true power of a master makes his previous opponent look like a total amateur. Jin ponders the mechanics of the Holy Knight's display, wondering if such destructive power really requires a fancy technique. Raymond cuts through the hesitation, demanding that Jin stop overthinking and lock his focus onto the lesson at hand. The knight instructs Jin to mimic the physical tension of a flexing muscle, using his own body as a blueprint for the technique. Raymond emphasizes that the secret to mana arts is seizing the energy and forcing it to hold steady within the muscle fibers. Jin takes a deep breath, mentally preparing to apply the theory he just learned to his own internal reserves. Suddenly, a massive surge of power erupts within him, leaving Jin shocked at the sheer volume of energy his body is capable of holding. He notes the flow feels eerily calm and weightless, questioning if this is the same mana that Claire once tried to teach him. Raymond continues his instruction, telling Jin to start pushing that mana outward bit by bit to get a feel for the release. Jin obeys, but instead of standard mana, a violent, ominous purple energy flares around his blade, catching everyone off guard. Raymond is left absolutely stunned, horrified not just by how quickly Jin mastered the technique, but by the terrifying, dark nature of the energy he produced. Raymond watches with growing unease as Jin manifests a blade wreathed in a violent, ominous purple aura. The Holy Knight stares directly at Jin, his expression turning cold as he demands to know what kind of monster resides within him. Jin tests the weight and reach of his new power, swinging the glowing purple blade through the air with fluid, practiced motions. He pauses to analyze his own performance, wondering if his low proficiency is the reason he feels like he is burning through so much energy. Despite the inefficiency, Jin can't help but admire the sheer aesthetic of his dark, jagged mana, eagerly anticipating a real fight to test it out. The group continues their trek across the wilderness, with the massive armored Tarask serving as their slow-moving transport. Claire catches up to Jin, beaming with genuine pride as she congratulates him on mastering mana arts so quickly. Jin acknowledges her praise, though he takes a moment to check in on her well-being after their previous encounter. He admits that the mana she transferred to him during their last crisis still feels like a lingering presence inside his own body. Claire dismisses his concern as a simple gift for saving her life, leaving Jin to reflect on how that infusion helped him grasp the technique so rapidly. Jin looks back at the knight riding alongside him, clearly unimpressed by the lecture he is receiving about his training. The knight, still clearly annoyed by yesterday's events, demands that Jin show some respect to Sir Raymond for his guidance. Jin just sighs, wondering why the guy is still so bitter about losing their duel in the arena. He decides he is bored of the constant nagging and starts plotting a way to bait the knight into another fight. Suddenly, the knight loses his composure and delivers a sharp, stinging slap to the rear of his own horse. The poor horse, startled by the sudden violence, lets out a panicked neigh and bolts forward in a frenzy. As the horse gallops away, the knight lets out a frustrated cry, while Jin is left behind, lamenting the loss of his entertainment. The commotion continues as a voice from the transport screams insults, calling everyone around them useless idiots. Jin asks the knight about the source of the shouting, only to be told to ignore the client's constant outbursts. Jin realizes the tantrum is coming from the Golden Bug's sons, who are busy loading supplies onto the transport while acting like spoiled brats. Derek and Cedric continue their endless, gluttonous feast, seemingly unable to stop stuffing their faces since their father passed away. Raymond advises Jin to simply ignore the brothers' bizarre behavior, noting that dwelling on it will only lead to a massive headache. Jin remains skeptical, internally questioning if calling their frantic, obsessive gorging mere stress-eating is a massive understatement. As the brothers continue to shovel food into their mouths, the atmosphere in the room grows heavy with an unnatural, suffocating pressure. A grotesque, pulsating mutation begins to manifest on their skin, signaling that something truly monstrous is about to break through. Jin watches the scene unfold with a sharp, focused gaze, realizing that the situation is far more dangerous than anyone anticipated. Suddenly, the massive Tarask transport erupts into chaos, bucking wildly and sending supplies flying as it loses all sense of control. The beast lets out a deafening, primal roar, its armored body thrashing violently as it succumbs to a berserker state. Panic ensues as the team realizes the Tarrasque, carrying their high-profile clients, has officially gone completely berserk. Raymond's eyes widen in sudden realization, his expression shifting to alarm as he recognizes the immediate danger facing the Golden Bug's sons. Raymond bellows a desperate command, signaling Rex to immediately engage the rampaging beast. The Holy Knight charges forward with his blade drawn, prioritizing the safety of their high-profile clients above all else. A terrifying, tentacled monstrosity erupts from the chaos, screeching as it fully reveals its corrupted, nightmarish form. Claire watches in absolute horror, identifying the creature as a genuine abomination that has lost all traces of humanity. She explains that this is the tragic result of a human being completely warped by the toxic influence of Mahjong's karma. Jin stares at the creature with a mix of shock and intensity, struggling to process that a human could truly become such a monster. Raymond leaps into the air, his golden mana flaring as he prepares to strike down the encroaching tentacles. He unleashes the devastating Divine Flame Cleave, a brilliant pillar of light that slices through the creature's dark mass. Raymond screams for Rex to move, his face twisted in pure urgency as the battle reaches a fever pitch. Rex lunges toward the beast with a battle cry, desperately trying to intercept the monster before it can cause any more destruction. The nightmare continues as the abomination's massive, tooth-lined maw snaps shut, proving that its regenerative powers are far beyond normal limits. Raymond watches in absolute shock, his eyes wide as he realizes the creature is healing faster than he can cut it down. The beast looms over Rex, its glowing red eyes and pulsating dark flesh radiating a pure chaotic malice that chills the air. Rex is visibly rattled, his face twisted in frustration as he realizes his best efforts have barely scratched the monster. A sudden, brutal strike from the creature's appendages catches Rex off guard, drawing a spray of blood as his defenses are shattered. Rex is sent reeling through the air, his sword arm compromised as the sheer force of the blow threatens to overwhelm him. The knight's expression hardens into a mask of pure, unadulterated rage, his focus narrowing as he refuses to go down without a fight. Raymond leaps into the fray, his blade glowing with intense golden energy as he prepares to unleash his ultimate technique. He executes the sacred flame slash with devastating precision, carving a burning path of light through the creature's thick, corrupted hide. Despite the massive strike, the monster's tentacles lash out, catching Rex midair and dragging him toward the abyss of its gaping jaws. Raymond desperately lunges toward the creature, shouting for Rex to hold on as he prepares to intervene. The abomination continues to crush the knight within its suffocating, tentacled grip, refusing to let its prey escape. Massive, dark tendrils whip through the air, completely pinning the struggling knight against the monster's pulsating mass. Just as hope seems lost, Jin blurs into the frame, launching a high-speed assault to carve through the creature's defenses. The impact sends the knight tumbling to the ground, his armor battered and his body clearly pushed to the absolute brink. Panic ripples through the onlookers as they realize the Holy Knight's apprentice has been taken out, leaving them questioning if they are all doomed. The abomination writhes in the shadows, its glowing red eyes burning with a malice that feels increasingly sentient and hungry. The creature reveals its true, nightmare-inducing form, a gaping maw of jagged teeth that confirms it was once a human twisted by dark karma. Jin stares at the horror, his mind haunted by the terrifying possibility that his own diet of monster cores might lead him to this exact fate. Shaking off the existential dread, Jin grips his blade with renewed focus, deciding that survival takes priority over his internal crisis. Jin narrowly dodges a barrage of razor-sharp tentacles, his eyes locked on the creature as he realizes its digestion is unnaturally fast. The abomination's flesh ripples and churns, its endless regeneration making it feel like they are trapped in a never-ending war of attrition. Jin stays low, weaving through the chaos, while keeping his movements efficient to conserve his stamina for the final blow. He lunges forward with a precise strike, his blade carving through the monster's dark mass in a desperate attempt to find a weak point. Frustration boils over as Jin realizes the creature is barely phased, forcing him to grit his teeth and prepare for an even harder fight. With a burst of speed, he leaps into the air, narrowly avoiding a lethal strike as he surveys the battlefield from above. Jonathan and the rest of the crew shout their support, refusing to stand by while Jin takes on the nightmare alone. Claire steps into the fray, her grimoire glowing with a brilliant, ethereal light as she prepares to weave a powerful suppression spell. She channels her mana into a swirling vortex, her incantations designed to pierce the darkness and weaken the monster's hold on reality. The team rallies as the magic takes hold, realizing the creature's regeneration is finally faltering and moving in to finish the job. Jin wears a smirk, clearly impressed that his opponents haven't completely lost their minds in the face of this nightmare. The abomination looms, its form pulsing with a dark, unnatural energy that seems to be shifting and evolving before their eyes. Jin's expression turns serious as he realizes the creature's internal energy signature has undergone a sudden, drastic change. The monster fully reveals its grotesque anatomy, a mass of corrupted flesh that looks like a living, breathing horror show. Jin is horrified to spot the faces of the golden bug sons embedded in the creature's shoulders, confirming the brothers have been consumed. The abomination lashes out, its body erupting into a flurry of dark, whip-like tentacles that threaten to ensnare everything in reach. Jin curses his luck as the creature's appendages slam into the ground, creating a chaotic mess of black, viscous sludge. The nightmare intensifies as the creature violently reabsorbs its own severed flesh, effectively healing its wounds in real time. Jin doesn't hesitate, launching himself through the air with his blade drawn to strike at the heart of the beast. He descends with a powerful, sweeping slash, determined to sever the monster's connection to its stolen life force once and for all. The abomination looms over Jin, its hollow, eyeless face screaming in a silent, nightmarish display of pure malice. Jin doesn't flinch, meeting the monster's aggression head-on by parrying a lethal, whip-like tentacle with his steel blade. Jonathan rushes to Jin's side, his voice thick with concern as he checks if the mercenary is holding up against the onslaught. Jin reassures him that he is fine, though he warns that the creature has clearly evolved and grown significantly stronger. The monster stares back with glowing red eyes, its grotesque, tooth-filled maw pulsing as it fully reveals the faces of the golden bug sons. Jin maintains his cool, analyzing the situation and noting that they simply need to keep hacking away until only the core remains. He admits the real challenge is the creature's absurd regeneration speed, which makes every strike feel like a temporary fix. Jonathan counters with a grin, pointing out that since the monster has gotten stronger, they have also successfully mapped out its attack patterns. Jin flashes a sharp, predatory smirk, fully embracing the challenge as he prepares to unleash his dark, purple-hued mana arts. With a final, decisive declaration, Jin charges into the fray, his blade wreathed in violet energy as he begins to carve through the beast's defenses. The abomination's flesh continues to writhe and pulse with a sickening, wet sound as it desperately tries to knit itself back together. Even with deep, bleeding gashes carved into its hide, the creature's singular red eye remains locked on its prey, refusing to yield. Jin stands amidst the carnage, his blade glowing with a lethal, violet aura as he prepares to rip the core from the monster's body. With a cold, unwavering gaze, he declares that the nightmare is finally coming to an end. He drives his blade deep into the beast, tearing out the pulsating, glowing blue core that has been fueling its twisted regeneration. The rest of the mercenary group watches in disbelief, their heavy breathing echoing through the clearing as the adrenaline begins to fade. The severed pieces of the abomination fall to the earth, twitching one last time before finally going still. The mercenaries erupt into cheers, celebrating their survival and the massive boost this victory will give their reputation. Jin looks on with a weary, blood-stained face, offering a quiet word of praise to his team for holding the line. He holds the extracted core in his hand, the blue light reflecting in his eyes as he contemplates the dangerous power he now possesses. One of the mercenaries lets out a boisterous shout, clearly relieved that their comrade managed to make it out of that nightmare alive. Meanwhile, hidden in the shadows of the trees, a mysterious woman watches the entire scene unfold with a heavy heart. She laments the tragic fate of the golden bug sons, noting that despite their wealth, they ended up just as corrupt and doomed as their father. Tears stream down her face as she reflects on their pathetic end, unable to fathom how they could have been so utterly useless. Her attention shifts to the distance, where she spots Jin standing alone and wonders if he is the one who just took down that monstrosity. She watches in stunned silence as Jin grips the glowing internal core, completely baffled by his strange and dangerous habit of harvesting such things. Jin turns his gaze toward the forest, his expression unreadable as he senses he is being watched, leaving the mysterious observer to question exactly who he is.